Hey friends, welcome to my channel. Let's get crafting. These are the supplies we're going to be using for this DIY today. 2 of the signs from the Dollar Tree, some chalk paint that I got from Joann's with a coupon, and then 3 of the packs of long painter sticks from Home Depot. There are 3 in a pack. We're going to need 9 of them, so that'll be $3 for those painter sticks. Now we're going to remove the tags, push the boards up to each other, just as you see me doing here, and we are going to measure out our painter sticks where we need to cut on those lines. We're going to have 2 shorter ones that are going to be going vertical, and then we're going to have 2 longer ones that are going the length of the board that are going to be going horizontal. So we need 2 and 2 of these to be able to create a frame around these 2 signs. I love these kind of projects because you can take a whole lot of nothing and turn it into something really special. We're going to be making a command center where we have a chalkboard, a place to hang up our keys, and place our mail. So you can see here that I used my hacksaw and my miter box. I'm going to link that down below. It is an Amazon affiliate link, and I do get a small commission if you decide to purchase it through that link. And I appreciate it. Anyone who has ever done that, it means so much to me. But I'll link it down below if you are interested in the one that I have. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and just start gluing them on, and you can see that I glued down the top piece first, and then I'm doing the sides, because if you see right there where those spots are ripped up, I tried to do the top and the bottom first, not realizing that it would be better to do the sides, and then the sides weren't fitting in right. So make sure you do the top, the sides, and then the bottom. That way so everything fits perfectly around it and you're not trying to shove pieces of wood into their spots. It just makes it so much easier this way. So go ahead and just place all of your sticks down with some hot glue, and then we're going to take another long painter stick, and you can see that I pushed it down into the actual spacing of the wood because this is going to create the mailbox. So I have one that's going the width, and then we're going to have 2 that are shorter. They're going to go the height of it. And then this is going to allow us to be able to create that box for mail to go in. So you can see I added some glue, I'm placing it in place, and then I'm adding on the sides. Now, here is something I learned as I was doing this. A little bit later you're going to see me paint it. Once you get the box framed out, I highly recommend painting the white part of the inside of the box first before you put on the front of the box. That is the one thing that I wish that I had done, and I ended up having to struggle by putting my paintbrush down in there to get everything white. So at this point you should paint everything white and then come back in and paint once you put the crossbars on the front of it. But you can see here I'm using my staple gun. I'll link this down below too. I love using a staple gun on all my crafts. And then on the back side, you're going to see that I'm just kind of getting a measurement of where those pieces are going to be. And I'm just going to take my staple gun and go ahead and staple on those markers, just so that I don't go through on the other side, because we want to make sure we're securing that front box where we're going to put our mail. This is really easy. I just used a pencil, just kind of marked it, brought it around on the other side. You could use a ruler if you want to, but I didn't want to pull one out, and so I was kind of being lazy. So basically just mark the spots that you think are going to hit right at that front part where the little box for the mail is, and then just staple it on and just keep checking to make sure you didn't go through. Okay, now at this point, like I said, you should paint at this point, but I ended up putting on the front bars first, and like I said, that was a little bit of a regret because you'll see in a minute that I'm going to struggle painting the inside. Once you've got those on, you can go ahead and staple them down and secure them into place. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the painting, and you're going to see here where I'm having to, like I said, shove my brush down in there to get that area painted. So learn from my mistake on this part, but painting is really fun. I always find this part super therapeutic. I love painting things. I don't know what it is about painting, but I just love painting. So here I am, I'm taking some white paint and I'm just going to go over all the wood. You could stain this if you wanted to. That could be really beautiful too. You don't have to just use white. You could use a color, you could stain it. But once you've got that part all done, you're going to go ahead and take your chalk paint and you're going to go right at that seam line between those 2 boards, and you're just going to paint a nice thick layer of chalk paint on so that you can use chalk on this. Now we're going to take these hooks. I picked these up from the Home Depot. They were quite a few of them in a pack, and I think they were like $4. I could be wrong, but it's something right around that price. And then I just marked out where I wanted my hooks to be, and I'm using my drill to pre-drill the holes. It makes it much easier putting in these little hooks. And then you're just going to screw them right in. You could add a little wood glue if you want to keep them in there permanently. That's a great option too. But you're going to go ahead and just screw them all in so they're nice and tight. And if you start having a problem screwing them in, you can always use some pliers. And then I took one of these garden tags. I'm going to scrape off some of the paint so that the bond is really nicely put onto the front of this sign. And we're going to just glue it right on. I'm going to use some hot glue for that. And then I thought it would be really cute if I were to write on there with some paint, or I guess paint on it, the word male. I just loved the way that that looked. I thought this was so cute. I can't believe how much Pottery Barn sells these things for. You can seriously make them for pennies. At this point, I have spent probably about $6. Now at this point, I'm just adding in hooks at the top. I took those original golden hooks and I closed the opening so it's a rounded closed piece, and I'm screwing them right in so you can hang it up at your back door and put all of your things in it. This DIY is going to be using the flowers from my February kit box, some rope, some popsicle sticks, one of these garden tags, and this bamboo cutting board. Friends, I am obsessed with popsicle sticks, mainly because they're easy to cut with a pair of scissors, and you can do some of the most amazing things with these things by just cutting them and putting them together in a particular pattern. So here you can see that I cut off the tops and the bottoms. I put 12 on each of the sides, the long side of the bamboo cutting board, and then 8 on the shorter end. Now we're going to simply take the sticks, add some hot glue, and we're going to go all around this entire board. Now I took my time here. You can see this is my real speed that I'm going at. I want to make sure you can see that this is not a race. It's always better to just put them on really slow and take your time. Plus, I found this really therapeutic to do, but that might just be me. Once I had all my sticks glued on and they were nice and sturdy and straight as I wanted them to get, then I went back in with my staple gun and I stapled them down to the bamboo board. This bamboo board is a really sturdy piece, so it's really allowing me to staple into it and allow the sticks to be nice and secure. Now, once I went all the way around, the bamboo board has a rounded corner. So I'm coming back in with a shorter stick than the original ones I used, and I'm just lining that up on the inside. Now if I could do this part again, I think I would probably put the sticks on the outside versus the inside so I could staple it on. So that's just something to keep note of. And then when I went to the top, I'm adding some more popsicle sticks. This is going to really straighten out the box at this point because you're going to notice that they're going all over the place. And as I put on this extra stick, it really does straighten out the whole box, and it makes it just look so farmhouse chic. Once I went all the way around the whole box, I was then able to move on to painting. Now I didn't want to paint the bamboo part because I really love the color of that wood. So anytime I accidentally got paint on the bamboo, I went ahead and just wiped it off with a wipey and made sure I cleaned that part to make sure the wood stayed really pretty and noticeable. I really loved the wood with the white. I thought it looked so beautiful together. Now this 3D wreath ring form is super popular, but the shape is also perfect to be able to turn into some handles for my basket that I'm making. So I took the smallest ring and then I'm just going to cut it in half. I also cut off the little nubs that were on it that hold the whole thing together with my wire cutters. And then once I cut that in half at the halfway point of the circle, I'm now taking my Crop-A-Dile. This is one of my favorite tools. I'm going to link this and my staple gun because people ask me about it all the time. It'll be linked down below in my description box. I'm just simply going around and I'm just punching holes. It goes through metal, wood, plastic. This thing goes through everything. I love this tool so much. Now I'm adding on some hot glue and I'm going to come in with my nautical rope and I'm going to not put glue where the holes are, because we're going to be putting the wire through that part in just a minute. So make sure you can still see the hole and be able to get that wire through there. But go ahead and go all the way around the top of the box and then the bottom of the box. There was something about this that made this feel very French farmhouse country chic. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up in my head, but I loved having the rope on there. I just thought it added a really pretty texture and it made it look more high end. So once I had all the rope all twisted into place nicely, I came back in with my wire handle, and you can see here that I'm using my pliers. And then I'm just simply working it in and twisting the piece up so that it's all bound on there together. And it's so fun because these handles actually are functional, where you can pull them open so you can put stuff inside of it, and then pull them back closed so you can hold it. And then to finish the look, I'm going to take this little garden tag and I'm just going to hot glue that right on after popping off that stick. And then at this point, you're ready to display it and use it however you want in your home. Our next DIY are going to be using these long painter sticks that you can pick up from your home improvement stores, and some twine or rope, whichever you want. Start by taking one of these painter sticks and you're going to cut it down right at the neck, where the neck and the flat side meet up. And then I use it as a jumping point to make sure all of my sticks are cut to the right size. You're going to need some wood glue at this point, and we have 6 at the base of the box, and then we've got 2 at the sides that are the same as the base, and then we've got 2 shorter ones at the head and the foot of this box where our handles are going to be. I'm taking the wood glue and I'm putting some dots all along it, so I've got that long-term hold. And then I'm going to take some hot glue, so that's a short-term hold, so it allows that wood glue to be able to dry and be really strong and sturdy with time. I'm just going back and forth until I've gotten through all 6 of those. And then I'm going to start working on bringing up the sides of my cute tray box here. So I'm bringing up the sides just like I said, adding some of that. And if there's any glue that squirts out, I just take a wipey and smooth it away so it's nice and clean and finished. And then here on the ends you can see that I'm putting on the caps on the sides of it. And now to make it really strong, I'm going to take my staple gun and I'm going to just go around it at the joints where it matches up and add in some staples. I went about 4 on the long sides, and then I went at the line-up point of every single stick on the end just to make sure they're all nice and secure in there. Then I took my drill and I drilled in 4 holes, 2 on each side, so that I can put in some rope and make it look very coastal, beautiful. I could really see these in your bathrooms, or because I know so many people say that they decorate their bathroom with a coastal theme. How pretty could this be on your counter somewhere in your bathroom if you have your makeup displayed on it, or if you have just, you know, toiletries or whatever, some towels, maybe even a plant of some kind. I just think it would be so pretty. Or like you could use it on your coffee table in your living room, which is what I'm planning on doing with it, to corral remote controls and just things like that. Now for one of those smaller boxes, I decided to do a lighter color, and I just think it's so cute when they're stacked inside of each other. And then I thought to really step it up a notch and make it a little more special and custom, I'm just taking some painter's tape, creating 2 lines one way and then 2 lines the other way to create a cute tic-tac-toe game. I just think this would be really sweet, having this out on a table somewhere in your home to display whenever you have people coming over to visit, or just for your kids, or just family members in general. Then go ahead and tie off the handles and add a little bit of hot glue, making sure it stays in place, and cut away the extra. Now this next DIY, I'm going to be using 4 of these cute signs from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to pop off the Happy Fall and the Welcome, and I'm going to use them to create a large circle. Now I have been seeing these large clocks that are, you know, taken apart, where like you don't have the gears and the hands on them, and people have been using them to stack and layer on their mantles. Listen, friends, those things are so expensive once again, where I know that we could do it so much more affordable and make it where it's high quality, not just using foam core, but actually using a nice sturdy thick surface like we're doing here. So I took off those Welcome and Happy Fall curved parts, and you can see here that on the back side I used some hot glue, some painter sticks, and I'm just creating it strong enough so I can flip it over and to be able to grid out my circle. So you can see here I used a pencil and a piece of twine, and I'm just holding it right in the center with the other part tied to my pencil and going all the way around in a circle. Now at this point, I don't know if you know this about these particle boards, these decor signs from the Dollar Tree. They snap really easy, so when you score it with your craft knife and you get an edge that you can push on to get that leverage, it will just snap off without any problems. And it is just so stinking cool that you can take these and turn these into a whole different shape. Now you're going to see that it's shifting and moving around the different pieces because it's not fully secured on the backside yet, because I didn't want to run into a painter stick if I had glued too far over on the sides. So you can see here now I'm going to go back in and add in some more supports and really just make sure it's nice and strong and all sturdy on the back side. Now I will definitely recommend painting the front and the back, but before we do that, first we're going to go ahead and take our scissors and we're going to just trim off any rough edges around to make a complete and perfect circle. And then go back in with moving it just to make sure that you don't have any more loose corners or edges. You want to make sure it's really secured down so that when you're moving it around, it's high quality versus it being, you know, a craft that we did in our craft room. So once you've got your circle all complete, everything's nice and sturdy, go ahead and take your white paint. Now, I don't know if you ever watch me when I'm trying to get my paint out, because friends, I use it down to the very last squish of a bottle. I am so determined to get every single drop. So you will always see me in sped up motion where I'm trying to tap out the paint. So I eventually finished one bottle of paint and moved on to a brand new one. It's always so fun to bust open a new bottle of paint. Now at this point, once everything's all painted white on the back and the front, I'm going to go ahead and go in with a kind of a medium gray, and I'm going to create some shiplap lines, and then I'm going to go back in and dry brush on very, very little of that same color just to create some depth and some texture to make it look like Farmhouse shiplap distressed look. You know, that look that we all love so much if you love Farmhouse like I do. Now you're going to take some of these Dollar Tree stickers, and I decided instead of going with a very bold black, I wanted to soften them a little bit, so I went with more of a slate gray. So I'm going to just paint these numbers with my paint to create that look that I want. And then once that was dry, they peel off really easy, and I started just like this. I did the 12, 6, 3, 9, and then I filled in the other numbers, making sure everything was spaced out so I wasn't struggling with trying to space things properly and having things not fit, because that would just not be fun if it didn't work out and you did all that work. Now I wanted to show you an option. If you really do want the hands, you can use some skewer or shish kebab sticks and you can paint them black just like this and glue them on, but I have decided, like I said, I just want it to be just the numbers. This next DIY, I found it from inspiration when I was scrolling through some Magnolia home decor items. I saw this really cute crate that was a really dark coal color, and it said Magnolia across the front. It was in black letters, but you're going to see I'm going to do white letters to make it stand out even more. I know all of us love the Magnolia home decor, and I wanted to show you all how you could get that look so affordable for your home that you do not have to spend a ton of money. So here I am simply taking 2 packs of these thicker tongue depressor sticks that you can get in the craft section at the Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna take 6 for one side, as you see there, 6 for the other side. I cut off the rounded parts, and then I'm going to take one more stick, cut it down to size, and add that on the front and the back. Now you can see here that I've repeated that process 3 times because this is going to be the 2 long walls of the box, and then this last one is going to be the bottom, so I'm actually going to add some more supports on the bottom of that so it's really strong. If you have any hangovers, just go ahead and snip those off with your scissors. Once you've got that done, you're going to work on the sides of the box where it's the shorter part, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut down 6 of them to the desired size we want, put a stick on the back to support them all, and once you've got 2 of those, you can start assembling the box. Again, this is so easy, and it only cost me about $1.05 because I didn't really even use the second pack. I only had a couple that I needed to pull from it. So now we're going to go ahead and start assembling the sides. You're going to add glue on those 3 parts for the bottom, just like you saw, and you're going to hold it in place. And right now it looks a little flimsy, like it's going to break, but by the time we're done with this thing, it's going to be super strong and sturdy. Now you're going to take some more glue, and you're going to simply go in to the crevices of the inside of the box, add some more glue, put down some more popsicle sticks to really strengthen it, add some more glue. I was really generous with the glue on the inside. Then at this point, we're going to go ahead and add on the sides of the box, or I guess the insides of the box. I don't know what you would call that, but you can see here the smaller part. And I'm going to just hold that all into place, gluing everything, and then creating once again the supports on the inside. Now the outside does not look polished, and this is where it really starts to come together. We're going to take some more of those sticks. We're going to cut them down to size, and we're going to frame it out. I think framing it out is where it really makes it look high-end, like you bought it from the store or you picked it up from Magnolia and you probably paid a ton of money for it because we love that look so much. So here I am, I'm just framing it all out, cutting everything down to size, adding in glue where I need to, and at this point it really starts to come together and looks like an actual crate that you could pick up and purchase at the store. So once you've got everything framed out and it's nice and sturdy and strong and everything is dry, you're then going to go ahead and move on to painting it. Now, like I said, I was going off of the inspiration that I saw from Magnolia, so I went with a really dark slate coal kind of color. I basically took black and added in some white until I got the color that I wanted, and I just generously painted it all over, making sure I got everything. Now, I didn't have white letters and I wanted to keep this all Dollar Tree products, so I took the word Magnolia, put it on a piece of paper, painted them white, and added them to the front of my box. Once that was on there, I wanted to make sure they stayed, so I went ahead and Mod Podged the whole box, making sure it was nice and sealed, and now I can display it for fall. Supplies are going to be 2x4 pieces of wood that we're going to cut down to size. The cutting is super simple. I'm using my brand new saw table. I'm so excited. I finally have invested in one of these. I've been saving up for a while and finally got one. And I'm just using straight cuts and a 45-degree angle cut. Now this wood is actually really old wood, which is why I'm needing to sand it down really well, because it came from the wall in between my living room and kitchen. Most people would see that wood as trash, but for myself, I saw it as a treasure, and so I've been holding on to it. And when I realized, oh, I can make cute little houses out of it, I definitely knew what wood to be using. And so basically these houses are going to cost me pretty much nothing other than the cost of paint and painter sticks that we're going to be using, since this wood came from our house. Now, I had so much fun with this part because I love painting. I've always loved painting. I love just, getting my hands dirty and just playing with whatever mediums that I'm working with when it comes to painting a project. So for the houses, I painted a few of them white, and then I'm going to go in with some more fun colors because this is my coastal week here on my channel. And I'm going to be adding in some coral, some really creamy, pretty citrusy orange, and then a really pretty mustard yellow. I thought that these would look so cute all together with them being distressed some. Almost think like a little village next to a seaport, the coast. I just think there's something so cute about them, and it makes me think that they're summery. Plus the colors lend really well going into fall time. And because I have so much wood from that wall, I'm actually planning on making a ton more of these with different colors throughout the year because I just love these that much, I guess. Now for the rooftops, I'm going to take the long painter sticks because they're a little bit thicker than the smaller ones. And I'm going to just cut them down to size for my rooftops. A tip about these painter sticks, make sure when you're putting them up on the house that has the peak right in the middle, you're going to want to make sure that you kind of overlap the house roof up at the top just a little bit, and you'll see it towards the end of the video, but you just want to make sure your roof line, they match up perfectly up at the top. So one side needs to be just a tiny bit longer than the other side so that they come together nicely at the top of your roof. And then as you can see here, I've painted them all different colors because I just thought it was so cute to have this different interest in all these different houses and make them look so unique to themselves as if you would see it in a little town. And then for this particular house, how I cut the wood, I stood it up on its side and then did my 45-degree angle cut so that the roof line is coming out more of a shingled roof out towards the front. I thought that that was a cute touch just to turn the direction of my cut lines. And then I'm just adding on 2 pieces up here at the top that are the same width for my painter sticks. And then I'm going to just come on into the other houses where they are going to be meeting up at the top. As you can see here, I'm taking one that's a little bit longer like I mentioned and one that's a little bit shorter and just perfectly lining them up there at the top. Now for my glue, I'm using wood glue and hot glue for that short-term long-term hold. I really like the idea of doing both of them just because it really does allow you to have a nice quality finished project. Versus over time, if you were to drop them, they could just pop right off with hot glue. So I really like to use a little bit of wood glue anytime I'm ever working with glue. Now the crazy thing is, because these all came from my walls pretty much, I'm spending basically pennies to make these, and people charge so much. Now we're going to take some tongue depressor sticks from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just cut them down to size to create some really darling doors. This actually felt like the perfect size for these little houses. I love the width size of them, and so I'm just going to cut them at all different angles. And then I'm going to take some drywall nails. I found that these ones were the closest look to a chimney that I could get because the top of the head was a little bit wider because it's for drywall. And I just went ahead and added a couple of nails in each one. Some of them only got one, and it was to create a chimney smokestack look to them. I just think that this was such a cute detail, and again, pennies to make these. I have been seeing these on Etsy, and people are selling these like a set of 3 houses for so much money. Friends, again, you can tell that the wood was free. The painter sticks cost $1 for 3 of them. Paint, you probably already have it. Popsicle sticks, tongue depressor sticks, again, you probably already have it. These things cost pennies, and when I see that they're being sold for 40, 50 bucks, I just feel like, oh friends, save your money. Unless you don't want to make them and it's easier just to buy them, then I support your decision. But I just want you all to see that taking something like some scrapped leftover wood really can make such a huge impact. Now here in my houses, I'm going to add some windows. My husband was kind of making fun of this house in particular. He's like, do the people on the 2nd and the 3rd floor not get windows? Which made me laugh, but I personally like them spread out. So every house, just have fun with it and just create windows that you love. These are the supplies we're going to be using today. Long wood stakes and some shelf brackets that I picked up from the local home improvement store. Go ahead by starting with cutting them open and taking 2 of those long stakes and cut off the tips. These are going to be the pieces of wood that go all the way across that picket fence that makes it look like it. And then the extra ones that we have inside the pack, we're going to just space those all out, making sure they're nice and straight and even and leveled the best you can. And then you're going to take some wood glue and put them on first, and then a little bit of hot glue for that short-term, long-term hold. Make sure everything's in position, and then go ahead and hammer everything down with a nail that has a nice wide top nail head. You want to make sure that if you use a smaller nail, you don't want the nail head to be little, because when you do, over time, if it gets dropped or moved, those nail heads will maybe slip or break out. So I like to use a nice wide nail head, and you're going to do 2 on every single one of those joints. This way it's super sturdy and super strong. And this whole project cost me about $8.50 to make, which is just so fun. Now we're going to take another stick and we are going to measure it down the insides of those outer stakes. We want it to be just short enough that it would fit right in between those 2 end spots, because that's going to become the brace, the feet at the bottom of this picket fence. So first I cut down that line, and then I also cut down 4 more pieces that were all the same size. These are the feet that we need, that is going to be able to make it stand up nice and strong without it falling over or having any issues with having to lean it on your house or anything like that. So what I'm doing is, again, adding some wood glue, adding some hot glue, and then I'm coming in with my staple gun and I'm making sure I'm stapling it in certain places so that it is nice and snug on there. And when you're done, it should look like a giant letter I. Now at this point, I can go ahead and bring on the bracket and the fence. I had my son actually holding it for me so that I didn't have any issues with it falling over. And then I'm going to just go ahead and screw in my screws so that way it's nice and tight. Well, as you can see here, it's standing up without any issues, and it is super sturdy, friends. I was so excited how sturdy this thing was. I kind of saw it in my head. I was hoping it was going to be nice and strong and secure, and it actually was. So now at this point I can go ahead and paint. You're going to see my family walking back and forth a lot, and you're also going to see from this angle my giant cup of water that I always keep next to me whenever I'm crafting. I love water. We are going to be using this stair spindle or stair rod. I don't know. I always call things so crazy here on my channel. And these wood rounds that you can get at the Dollar Tree. This DIY is going to be so easy and so quick that when you see how quick I make these candle stems, you're going to think, why do stores charge $30 to $40 for these? So here I am. I'm just going to take this and cut it in 2 places because we're going to be making 2 really beautiful farmhouse candle stems. All you need to do is cut them down to the desired length that you want, and then you're going to take a drill and you're going to pre-drill holes on both sides. This is going to allow you to be able to make sure the wood doesn't splinter, and it will also help you just kind of guide the screw in easier so that your candle stems don't end up wonky or crooked, because we don't really want that when we're dealing with candles. I would also recommend that the non-lighting candles, the battery lit LED candles, are really pretty on these too. If you don't feel comfortable with putting an open flame on them, that's totally understandable. These are just so cute on a mantle. So now at this point, I'm going to also pre-drill holes into the wood rounds from the Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to go in with a bigger drill and I'm going to do a countersink hole. I'm going to go ahead and start drilling through the round first. Then you're going to see here, I'm going to take the bottom and I'm going to just line up that pre-drill hole that you saw earlier. I'm going to hold my hand back so it's not in place of getting hurt. And then I'm going to go ahead and just drill it all together. This is so easy to make, friends. And each candle stem cost me, I'm going to say $2.50 to make, because each round was $1, and then the stem, the railing stem or spindle, that was $1 from my local refurbished store. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and just screw on all of the other tops and bottoms. I'm using a wood round at the top and the bottom because I thought that this just looks so chunky and really pretty. And then now I'm going to just take some white paint and just add a little bit to it. I actually like the wood color tone that was on the wood rounds from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to add some paint around it, not covering up the whole thing. And then because the spindle itself was already kind of an off-white pretty color, I'm just going to simply go in and just add a little bit of white paint so it looks, you know, distressed, farmhouse looking. And then that's pretty much it. You're ready to add your candles and display. These are the supplies we're going to be using for this DIY. I am going to be using a plunger, these two cute crates that they have in the craft section at the Dollar Tree, and then some leftover long painter sticks that I've cut down to size that are left over from a previous project. We're going to take some wood glue and some hot glue and put it all over one of the sides of these crates, and then we're going to just bring them together because we're going to be creating a super cute summer tray that is so farmhouse inspired. And it's super easy because they already have these crates at the Dollar Tree and they have so many of them. They have different things on the sides as cut out. Now I'm going to go with these long painter sticks to create the handle right at the star point. I'm just going to center it right in the middle of the box, adding some hot glue and some wood glue. Again, like I like that long-term, short-term hold so it really is built well. And then we're going to just put that right on the center, just like I did the other one. And then we can go ahead and create the crossbar up at the top. That's where our plunger comes in handy. We're going to cut off the screwed end that's engraved into the wood, and then we're going to cut off the other side so we get the right sizing, and then use some sandpaper to sand it down. Now I'm using my drill to pre-drill a hole so that it doesn't splinter the wood on my handles for my painter sticks, because that can happen. Screwing in the screws. And then I'm going to use my staple gun to go in and just make sure I secure the bottom just a little bit better because I like things to have a nice strong hold. Our next step is now to take some water, some brown paint and some black paint and mix it together to create a wood stain. Now I know we could use regular wood stain for this, but I just like using this so much more because I can wash it off my hands really easy and I don't even have to wear gloves. But for summertime, I really have been digging on a darker wood. I just think that this is so pretty for the summertime. Now you can stop at this point, or you can distress it and take a little further, like you know I like to do it here on my channel. So once it was all dried and nice and dark, I went in with a little bit of white paint and simply distressed the sides. For this project, we're going to be using this super popular gold basket that they have at the Dollar Tree right now. I love these. They come in a couple different shapes. And I decided that this basket has such large holes at the bottom that things just fall through it. Now, if you were putting just regular paper in it for like a paper holder, you'd be fine. But what I decided to do was line the bottom with some of these popsicle sticks in different sizes. I used these really large ones that I picked up from Walmart, and now I'm going in with tongue depressors to add a support at the bottom of these sticks to be able to sit nicely inside of the basket. So you can see here that I have 3 rows of supportive beams, we're just going to call it that, and then when I flip it over, it's going to fit nicely inside of the grooves, and now you can put more than just paper inside of these baskets. Now I want to make it look more appropriate for fall, so I'm going to use a really pretty farmhouse dark tone to this. I'm going to create a stain using some paint, brown, black, and some water, and just mix it together until I like the look of it. And then I'm just going to go over it until I like the stain color. Once it was dry, I went ahead and took my pencil and I'm sketching on the word thankful because I thought that that would be really pretty to add to it. And then I'm just going back in with a fine tip brush and some white paint, and I'm taking my time going over it. Now, one of the fun things about hand painting letters just like this is that it just really develops a fun skill. The more you practice, the better you get. And I'm not super great at it, but I'm really good at freehanding and looking at something. So I looked at this word thankful with somebody else who was really good with calligraphy, and I just sketched it until I liked it and then went over with my white paint. Now I want to make sure my basket's going to stay, so I'm using a tool called the Crop-A-Dile. I talked about it in my last video and a couple of my videos in the past. It's my favorite tool. I punched some holes out and then I used some twine to thread it all together. The Crop-A-Dile goes through any metal and any wood, which is so awesome. Then on the sides I created some handles using some rope from the Dollar Tree, and then I'm going to wrap around the ends where I brought them together with some twine to finish off the look, and then you're ready to display it somewhere on a table in your home. For this DIY, we're going to be using a whole bunch of these stacking blocks from the Dollar Tree. This is how I store them in my craft room. I actually just dump them all inside this bucket and then I use them whenever I need them. So we are going to be gluing a whole bunch of them together to turn them into a beautiful, beautiful lantern that you can use in your home. And I want you again to see how it doesn't take a lot to make something beautiful. Now these type of lanterns, the one that we're going to be making today, they are so expensive at places like Pottery Barn, other stores online. And I just wanted you to see that with a little bit of imagination, you can make some really cool things. So I have these 2 long lines of 6, and then I have the 3 that are shorter, and that's going to be the bottom and the top. And you're going to see that I'm just going to add this glue together, and then once I've got those nice and straight, you want to make sure everything is as straight as possible when you're gluing them together, and then you're going to create this frame. So we're going to do that 4 times, and once you've got all 4 of them done, then I'm going to take these jumbo popsicle sticks or tongue depressor sticks from Walmart. That's where I pick mine up from. And I'm going to cut 3 long ones to fit, but you don't want to go all the way up to the edges. You want to leave a little bit of a lip so we can bring the sides of this lantern together. So you can see that I've got a lip on each one that will allow me to be able to glue down these bigger sticks and then still be able to put the sides of the lanterns together so it fits all nicely on there. And then I've got 2 shorter ones that I'm coming back in, and because the sticks are not long enough to go all the way that full length, I'm just hiding and concealing that by making them a little bit shorter on the back side. Then I'm going to come in with my staple gun, staple, add in some hot glue, and now I can start bringing in the sides. So you can see here, this is the reason why I didn't go all the way to the edge with these tongue depressor bigger sticks. So that way the frame of this lantern can be able to go together. And then I'm just basically sandwiching 2 of the sides, and I'm just holding it all into place nice and tight so it can dry nice and straight. And then I'm coming in with my staple gun and I'm just stapling it all together. Now you're thinking, oh, the staples, they're not going to look so nice. That's true, but I'm planning on painting this, so that's one of the things that you're not even going to really notice. If you are planning on staining it, I would say that you will notice that. So I'm not sure how to get around that one if you're planning on staining it. But if you're planning on painting it, you really can't even see them once it's all painted. Then around the bottom, I went with more of the sticks, stapled them in place. So here I am. I've already got it outside with this pretty taupey color. And I'm coming back in with some white. I'm coming back in with a grayish brown. And I'm just distressing it to make it look very farmhouse, coastal. I don't like doing too much coastal for my house. I really like more farmhouse traditional, but I think that the neutralness of this is just so pretty. And then I'm going to add on some of this white nautical rope, and then to make sure that it's nice and secure, I'm going to take some of this twine and wrap it around a bunch of times to create that really pretty texture on the ropes between the 2 different ones. And then I tied a simple loop knot, added some glue, and cut off the rest. For this DIY, we're going to be taking 3 of these long signs, some painter sticks, and 4 of these round balls that you can use as feet on a tray. Now, I saw a tray inspiration on one of my favorite online sites that I shop from, and the tray was so expensive. I thought, no way, I can totally make that myself. So we're just gonna get our measurements. I'm lining up the sides of my tray box. I'm making sure I know. I forgot to mention I also used 2 of these big tag signs from the Dollar Tree as well. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that at the beginning, but I'm just measuring everything out where I need my side cuts of my tray box to be. I'm just cutting those down to size. I've got 2 of those. And then I'm just now going to be coming in and making sure I can strengthen it by cutting down some of these dowels. And I'm going to use that to bring the sides together and have it be nice and clean versus having a bunch of screws on the side of my tray box. I wanted to make it look as clean as possible. So it's a little tricky at this point because you have to figure out where you're going to put in these dowel sticks. This is probably not the most professional way to do it, but it's how I did it, and it's just kind of how I roll in my craft room. I'm always just kind of winging it because I like to try to push my boundaries of creativity. So I took that little dowel, tapped it in some green paint, touched it on the 2 sides as lined up as I could, and now I'm just drilling in some holes to match the size that I need for the dowels to go down in there. And then I'm coming in on the long part of the tray, and you can see here I'm doing it on the side versus the ends. Then I went ahead and I put in my little dowels that I cut down, adding in a whole bunch of hot glue within all of the holes, and then I'm just putting that down in here. And I'm gonna pull out my gingham hammer. Every time I get this out and I start pounding on it, it sounds like I'm working in Santa's workshop. It always makes me laugh. I just feel so professional with my little hammer. Then at this point, my box has been completely built by following that step all throughout all the sides. And now I'm going to measure out the bottom of my box, did a long line, and now I'm scoring it along and snapping it where I need to. Now, these 2 signs are a little too long where they hang over the side of the box, so I had to take down the length of one of the long sides. So again, I'm just going to make a long line with my Sharpie marker, and then I'm going to score it and snap it. And you can see here how easy these snap. Sometimes it can be a little tricky when you get on an edge where there's not as much to grab onto, but I went ahead and just put on these once they were done being cut down to size with some hot glue, and I'm coming in with my staple gun to be able to staple it all in place. Now it's time to add on the feet of our tray, which is what we're going to be using these wood balls for. I lined them up where I wanted them to be, drilled a hole not too big because we want to be able to have the screw catch to it, but not where it's too small where it'll cause the sign to crack if you're not careful. So I went ahead and found the right screw and the right drill bit, and I'm just going to make sure my fingers are out of the way so that nothing comes through that wood ball, and I'm going to screw all 4 of those feet on. Now at this point you can go ahead and pick whatever color you want to paint it. I went with a pretty light gray color. I added on a handle and then did a little bit of distressing. Our next thing we're going to be doing is using these long painter sticks, and I love these things, but here I am. I'm just going to be cutting down these pieces because these are going to become the support system at the bottom, because we are going to create an adorable 4th of July tray that has an American flag look to it. So you can see here that I've got 7 of these painter sticks that are spaced apart just a little bit to give it that shiplap look, and then I'm gonna add on these pieces that I cut down. You saw earlier that I was kind of pushing the 2 pieces of wood up against it to make sure they were nice and straight before I glued them down, because you just don't want to have that issue where they're crooked before you glue them down. Now you can see that I moved over that bar or the rod or the stick. Boy, I was having a hard time finding that word. But moving over that painter stick a little bit to avoid those little divots on those painter stick handles. I just thought that was cute to leave that there as a little detail. So I stapled everything down just like I saw there. I'll link my staple gun. I love this thing. You all, if you've been here returning for quite some time, you will know that I love my staple gun and my miter saw box. I use it all the time. I'll link it in the description box. But once I got everything stapled down, I'm going to now take another stick and I am going to just glue it to the side, and I'm pushing it down to the table so that it is nice and flat, versus having it kind of raised up above where those supporter sticks are at the bottom. We want to see a nice flat side, so make sure you come all the way down to the table. And now I'm just going to measure out around the sides because I want to create a frame all around this little tray box that we're making. And I just think that this is going to look so stinking cute on a table to display in your home somewhere. And so see here, I'm just adding some more hot glue, putting on those sides that I cut down. And now I'm just kind of eyeballing. This part was probably the trickiest, if I'm being real with you all. I didn't want the staples to accidentally come out on the wrong side, and so when it did, I had to pull them back out until I kind of got the right spot. I realized that on the side of my staple gun there was actually a marker that showed where the staples came out. For whatever reason, I finally figured it out, and then after that I was able to align all the staples up just right and be able to go all the way around, supporting this box where it's nice and sturdy. So here's the thing. Once you add in those staples with the glued painter sticks together, it really becomes so strong and sturdy. It is so high-end and super cute. I could totally see something like Pottery Barn or even like Magnolia Home carrying this, just depending on what colors they might use, but I think it's so cute. So now I'm going to add some circles. I'm just kind of lining it across with a little pencil so I know where to drill, because I decided it would be even cuter and more high-end if I drilled in a couple holes so I can add some handles onto this tray. I just thought, well, why not add some handles so you can just add a little more texture, a little more design and element to it. So I'm just going in with 2 holes on both sides, and then I'm going to take some twine a little bit later on, but first we're going to paint it, because I decided before I added that twine rope to it, I didn't want to accidentally paint it or make a mistake. So now I'm going to take a painter stick, create a line across 4, because that's going to be the blue part. And now I'm going to come in with the red, and I'm going to paint all of those red that need to represent the red stripes on that flag. Now obviously I don't have 13 stripes because that would just be the biggest tray ever. But I am going to have 7 stripes, so you know, it still has the fill. It's not accurate exactly. You could make a bigger one if you wanted to, but I'm not going to do that just because of how big that tray would end up being. And I want this to be able to be fitting on my coffee table in my front room. So here I am. You can see that I've come all the way up to that line. And then when I get over to the siding of this box tray, I'm just taking my time and just painting all along. I'm not going down into the sides of the painter stick. I'm just staying at the top and then just having fun. I really love painting projects like this. You all know that have been here for a while. I love hand painting so much. So here I am just showing you all the steps of just taking your time. I am using an angled brush. I will say that that is one of my favorite brushes to use, is a little angled brush, because then it lets me get into those crevices without making a mistake. And I'm not adding a ton of paint too. You should never have paint so much that it's dripping off of your paintbrush, because then it's just gonna spill on your project somewhere. And then you saw there at the end, I always love keeping my paint. I don't like wasting paint. I'm super frugal like that. So whenever I have too much paint on my plate, I will just scoop that back up and put it back in the bottle. And that way my paint lasts forever. So now here you can see that I'm going to be painting 4 of the painter sticks blue, And doesn't it look so cute with the little divot in on that handle originally there? I'm so glad I kept that part and didn't cut that off. If that's not your thing and you want to cut that down, you totally can if you have a little miter box or some type of a saw, and you can do that too. But I really love the way it looked like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and add in the white, and then I'm also going to do kind of a rustic brush along the box of it. I wanted to still show some of the wood so it has that aged look, and then after everything was dry, I'm going to come back in and sand it. Now again, I know some of you do not like this much of a rustic look for Farmhouse. Some of you like the more clean side, but I am going to sand it a little bit just because I thought it was super cute. Now I will say about my style in my home, I love for my furniture, my couch and cabinets, I like them to be a clean, very traditional looking piece of furniture without a lot of distressing, or actually almost no distressing. But my home decor, I love having distressed home decor pieces. And by distressed, I need to clarify and say that I don't go super rustic looking. And I know that that's a look out there too. And when I see people do it, I think it's so cute. But, you know, I think I push my husband's boundaries sometimes when he sees me roughing things up. He likes things really clean. So I try to find the balance on both of our styles so that we both feel like this is our home, not just my home. So here I am at this point. You saw me trace on those stars, and I am painting them white so that way they look nice and crisp and clean. And I forgot to film it, but I did go back in with a little bit of brown paint and just did a dry brush technique on it. Now on the handles, I'm going to take some rope or a thin or a thicker twine. I'm going to tie some knots, add a little bit of hot glue, and then just cut those off so that the handles can be pulled back and stay in place. For this project, we are going to be making a lantern, and we're going to take these long paint sticks. These painter stir sticks, I hear people call them all kinds of different things, but they come from the home improvement stores locally to you. And we are going to take the long ones and cut down 8 of them. These are going to become the side structures for our lantern that we're making. And then once you've got 8 of those all cut down to the size that you need, and they need to all be the same size, you're then going to go ahead and take some wood stakes that you would use in your garden. I see a lot of people use these around their gardens, but these are wood stakes that you can also pick up from your home improvement store. And I'm going to be using a combination of wood glue and hot glue for that long-term, short-term hold to make sure that it nice and strong bonds together. We are going to have 6 of those. This is going to be the base of our lantern. I'm going to leave all the measurements down below so that it's not making this video too complicated. So if you're needing the measurements, go ahead down to the description box and you'll see them down there. But I'm going to go ahead and glue all of those 6 pieces together to create a very pretty, nice, solid base. Now you could do these with the painter sticks. I decided to use these wood stakes instead because I just liked how they were more substantial, thicker, sturdier looking. I just liked how they looked. But again, you can use painter sticks if you would like. So once you got all of those all wiped and cleaned up, because you could see there that I was pulling off some of that extra glue that kind of squirted out, you're going to go ahead and start gluing on the sides. So again, I'm using the wood glue with the hot glue, long-term, short-term hold, and then to make it really strong and sturdy, we are going to take our staple gun and we are just going to staple in 2 staples on it to make sure that it's nice and strong. And by the time we're done with this thing, it is going to be so sturdy and it is just going to be so pretty on your front porch or wherever you decide to use it in your home. So now I'm putting on the other side and I'm just making sure that the sides match up, and then I'm going to move on to the next, and I'm just going to keep putting the 2 corners on making sure that the sides match up with each other so that it is nice and smooth on the sides. And then you can see even as I'm going up, I'm putting little dots of that wood glue and hot glue to make sure that the top and the bottom and the sides are all glued together, and then adding 2 staples at the bottom. So as I get around the corner to my 4th leg, I noticed something started to happen with this, and I thought I would just mention it all so you would know. And I noticed that towards the top you could see that they're starting to bow in towards the top. So when you go to glue on these support pieces, which I'm doing right here, I cut down 8 of these smaller painter sticks because I wanted to wrap them around the bottom and the top to create a nice pretty finished look and a structure to it. I cut 8 of these, but you can see here that it's a little bit not all the way up to the edge because I want, again, I'm going to show you in a second, add another piece to it. But up here at the top, when I went to go put up this piece, you can see that it's not fully lining up. So I had to actually pull it out from each other and make sure that it was not crooked. And that just happens with wood. Sometimes it'll just shift on you. So you're going to see here that as I staple it, I'm going to pull it out. You can see what I'm talking about. It wants to kind of collapse in a little bit. So just make sure you pull it out, glue it into place, that hot glue, so it'll hold it into place while the wood glue dries, and then just staple it. And then I just flipped it over and did it on the other side, making sure everything was nice and straight and all glued and stapled together. Now, like I said earlier, you saw that I had a little bit of a spacing between those top parts, and I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to fill them in with some really pretty smaller square pieces of wood that I just happen to have in my craft room. You don't have to do this. You could make those painter sticks that are coming around the bottom and the top the exact length, but I wanted to have a little bit more detail, so I'll show you that in a second. But right now at the top, we're going to take some more of those wood stakes, and I'm going to use my miter box. Now there's a straight cut, and then there's a 45-degree angle cut, and you can see that I'm just going to cut at an angle, and I'm going to allow this to create a miter edge at the top, which is going to make it look so high-end and pretty. I love this little cutting toolbox. I'm going to link it down below, as well as my staple gun. I get asked about it all the time. And then see here, all the 4 pieces all cut with that little side angle. Now they are all going to miter together beautifully and look super high-end. So here I am, I'm adding some more of that wood glue, hot glue, and I'm just going to go around making sure every single side is pressed together really well so there's not a big gap. And then if you have any glue squirt out from pushing it together, just again wipe that away so it has a nice clean finish. And then once you get around to that last side, I'm going to set this over to the side just for a minute while I go back over to my actual lantern and add on this piece right here. So here is the piece I was talking about. I had this in my craft room. I thought this would be really pretty. So on those 8 pieces that I cut down to size to wrap around the bottom and the top, 4 of them I cut a little bit shorter, and the other 4 cut a little bit longer so that I can put this piece on there. I thought this would look so pretty to add on this little detail where you have this little corner that's kind of popped up, and it's just going to fit in there nicely. I'm adding in some more hot glue and some wood glue once again because I just want to make sure that this is built really well. And I mean, this cost nothing. At this point, these are just seriously painter sticks, stirrer sticks, and these wood stakes. And look at how we can build the most coolest things from it. Now, I could leave it like this, or we could make it a little more special. You know how I like to do it here on my channel. I like to take it a little further and just challenge myself a little bit more each time. So I'm going to take these long sticks. They're not shish kebab sticks. I always forget what these ones are called. Leave a comment down below. I think steaks? Nope, that's not it either. Either way, these long shish kebab sticks, we're just gonna go with that name, but they're the really long sticks, and I'm just gonna cut them down to size because I want to create a really pretty crisscross design work on the inside of this lantern and just add a little more something special to it. I thought that this would be really pretty. So you're going to need 2 for each opening on your lantern, and you can see here that I'm simply just measuring it on the inside of the box first for my first cut, and now I'm just going back and cutting everything down to size so that it all fits perfectly inside of those spots. Once I had enough of them all cut, I'm going to add in some hot glue into the corners, and then I'm going to put them at an angle. I'm going to go one way. Make sure you hold it into place so it's nice and set. Add a little more glue on top of it so it's nice and glued in place so it doesn't move around on you or lift up. And then you're going to go the other direction, the other corners, and you're going to add some more hot glue and then just press them down. Now these are going to want to not lay flat, that second one, so you're going to have to hold it down for a little bit while the glue dries. But again, this was super simple to do. So once I went all the way around with all 4 of those, I added some glue to the top, and then I put on my miter top that we made earlier. And at this point, it just looks so pretty. I was so excited for this project, and as my family was coming down to check on me to see how I was doing with this project, they all started saying, "Oh, it's a lantern," which I have this thing for lanterns. They weren't sure at first what it was. My husband thought at first it was a trophy box, which I laughed because you never know with me. So once I gave it a nice coat of paint, I'm going to take some rope from the Dollar Tree and I'm actually going to braid it. I thought it would be really pretty to have a nice thick substantial rope on this. I braided it, brought the ends together, and just hot glued them so that they were nice and secured. And then I actually used one rope bundle from the Dollar Tree. I took 3 long pieces that were equal length, and then this was the little piece that was left over. I just unwrapped it, and I'm going to use that to bring it all together at the end, those little scraps that you saw me there pulling apart from the rope. So I wrapped it around the top of my lantern. I added in some hot glue to make sure it stays there forever. I don't want it to come off. And then I'm going to add some more hot glue right here, and that scrap piece of rope that was left over after I braided these, I'm going to just wrap that around a few times to make a very pretty finished look up at the top. I loved how this turned out so much. And then you don't have to do this part, you can skip it, but y'all know me, I just love a little roughed up edges, especially because I love that coastal look. Our supplies from the Dollar Tree are going to be these wood rounds, some popsicle sticks that are more like tongue depressors, and wood skewers. And I laughed so hard because so many of you kept calling them s'more sticks when I didn't know what they were called last video that I did on Saturday. You all had me laughing so hard with all of your different comments. Thank you everyone for trying to help me figure out what they were called. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these sticks, these tongue depressor sticks, and we are going to cut down one of the sides so that they're flat. So you can see how I'm putting them up to each other because we're going to be creating one big piece of wood that we can cut into a shape. And we're going to be doing, as you saw, some cute little birds. And I want you to think almost like a crane type bird where they have a long beak and they can peek their little nose down into, or their beak down into the sand and get the little clams or the crabs out of the sand. I just think that this is so cute, these little bird bodies. So I went one direction and now I'm going to go the other direction. Now another thing I wanted to share was that so many of us have Disney Plus, and I don't know if you have seen the short video that Disney Plus came out with called Piper. Go and watch it. It is the cutest, funniest little Disney short about a little bird who's trying to figure out how to pick out those little clams from the sand. My family and I laugh every time we watch it. It's so cute. If you have Disney Plus, go look it up. I'll link it down below in the description box if you need the name for the video. So as you can see here, I went one direction and then I went the other direction. And on this side that I'm sketching on, you can see that I kind of shifted the pieces of wood around because I wanted to give it that shiplap look. And it also just helped it to be stronger so that when I went to cut it, which we're going to do in a second after I'm done sketching, it would stay nice and strong and secure. So here I am, I'm just sketching on a couple little bird bodies, a mama bird and a baby bird. And maybe I have this whole maternal mama bird, baby bird thing in my head because I'm thinking of that Disney short where I just thought those little birds were so cute. And that little bird, when he just gets creamed by the wave, it's just the funniest little video. So here I am, I'm cutting out my little bird body. Now I will recommend that these are pretty easy to cut through. Use a pair of scissors that you're not afraid to dull, because when you do cut popsicle sticks or wood width scissors, it can dull them. Definitely do not use your fabric scissors on this project if you have a pair of fabric scissors that you use to sew with. But go ahead and cut them out and take your time going around. And if you see that you're getting stuck on some spots, you can see that I'm kind of breaking it away, and then I just keep cutting and just keep cutting until I get all the way around to create the shape of the bird body. Now, how cool could these be for any theme, any season, to be able to have this big piece of wood like this that cuts easy with a pair of scissors? You could do so much with this idea, and this came to me in a dream. Yes, it did, friends. Once again, I'm dreaming about crafts. Now that we've got the bird body shapes all cut out, we're going to take those wood rounds and we're going to drill down into the wood round just a little bit. Don't go all the way through. We want to have a base inside so that we can put our skewer sticks down inside. Now I created one longer than the other when I cut them down because, like I said, we're doing that mama bird, baby bird thing, like that maternal instinct. I don't know. Again, I just feel like mama bird and baby bird is the way to go for this craft project, friends. So here I am on the back side. I'm taking some of those popsicle sticks or tongue depressor sticks, and I'm cutting them down to create a bordered edge to secure the stick to the back of the bird. So I kind of created a little channel for it to sit down in there, and then I'm taking a stick and putting it right on top and just making sure that it's glued on there really nicely and looks nice and polished on the back side. So here's what it looks like when it's standing up, and either side that you look at it, it's going to be really beautiful and pretty. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take some water, some brown paint, and a little bit of black paint, and we're going to mix them all together to create a really fast, easy stain. I love doing this because it washes off your hands and it's not oil-based like regular stains can be. Plus, I already have brown paint, black paint, and water in my house, and I don't have to go out trying to find an expensive stain. This cost me pennies to do. Now we're going to take the pointy part of the skewer stick and we're going to glue that right on to the little bird's head, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take those popsicle sticks or tongue depressor sticks. I keep feeling like I need to say that, but it's the thicker one. And we're going to just make sure we have that exact same support system so that they don't break or have any issues. So go ahead and glue all that down. And then once you're done, you can go ahead and start painting your little birds. I went with a blue color for the mama bird and then a really pretty gray color for the baby bird. So I went on the back and the front, making sure I covered it all up. I ended up painting the beak a yellow color, and then I also added in some white to make it look very beachy and just really made it look nice and pretty with a little pop of color. And then now I'm going to take some of this greenery from the Dollar Tree and I'm just going to glue it around the base, and then I'm going to take some rope or some twine, whichever you have, and I'm going to just wrap it around the bottom of it to create that really pretty tall grass look that you would see at the ocean. And then on the bottom, to finish off the look, I'm going to take a piece of felt. I traced it, cut it down to size, and now I'm just going to glue that right onto the bottom so wherever it sits in my house, it doesn't scratch anything and it just looks really pretty and polished. We're going to be taking some painter sticks. I'm using 3 packs of the smaller painter sticks that you can get from your home improvement store. and each one has 10 inside of it. We won't be needing all of them, but we're going to get close to using all of them. So first what we're going to do is we are going to lay out our painter sticks the length of an actual painter stick, and you're going to want to make sure you have them all facing the same direction so that you can cover up those little handles where you can see them divoting in. We don't want that to be seen, because what we're doing right now is we're going to be creating almost, we're going to call it a barn door. That's what we're going to go with, a really cute barn door. And we're going to do two sides just like you saw me do there. And now we're going to glue them together in the middle. So we're going to take a lot of hot glue at this point, and we're going to just give a nice coating on it. And then we're going to take another painter stick and we're going to lay that right on it to make sure it has a nice support system in the middle so it doesn't have any problems. Once it's dry, you can go ahead and flip it over. You can see that I put a popsicle stick under, I said popsicle stick, painter stick. I use so many wood sticks here on my channel, sometimes I do that. But you can see that I put one underneath it to create a little support system underneath it so it could lay flat. And then on the front, like you saw there, I put two at an angle to create a Z zigzag look on it. And now I'm going to use my staple gun, and I'm just going to staple on the back side anywhere where there's a connecting point, so that way it's really strong and sturdy. At this point, it should be all strong with the staples and the hot glue, and you can go ahead and add whatever color you want to it. You could do red, which could be really pretty, where it's got that pretty barn door look. I'm going to go with white because, well, I like white, and I think you all know that. So I'm going to add on a pretty coat of white paint, and I do go in a little bit later and distress it. I forgot to film that part, but basically paint it whatever color you want. Now at this point, I'm going to use this ribbon. I picked this really thick ribbon up after all of the Christmas sales were going on at the end of Christmas last year. I highly recommend, when Christmas is done, go to your craft stores and buy this ribbon. You can get tons of it for so cheap. I think I ended up spending like $3 for this huge roll of this beautiful, beautiful burlappy type ribbon. So right now is a good time to go and check out the florals. And then this really cute cotton stem actually came from the Dollar Tree, friends. This is a new product the Dollar Tree is carrying. I love these things so much. I've picked up a whole bunch of them, so you'll be seeing them here a lot. Run to your stores, see if you can find them, because they're so pretty and high quality. And then I simply am just taking the two ribbons that I put underneath it. I did a simple loop over. I didn't even knot it. I just looped it over and then brought them down and glued things in place. And now I'm just kind of playing with it, adding in a little bit more eucalyptus, maybe another cotton stem, maybe some of the little greenery that comes off of the eucalyptus, and just playing with it until I feel happy with the look. Then at the end, go ahead and trim the ribbon and display. For this DIY, we're going to be using some of these wood square planks, painter sticks, and then 7 of these long signs that you can get all year round at the Dollar Tree. They always use this sign for each holiday and season. So I'm going to start by just popping off that front 3D popped out holiday tag, and then the ribbon and the staples off the back. Then I'm going to take 3 of them, bring them together where they're all lined up perfectly, and then glue down some long painter sticks, and this is going to allow the box to become stronger and stronger. So I'm also going to be cutting down a few pieces so that I can put them on the sides of the box, and I'll show that in just a second. But you can see here that once I've got things glued down, I'm stapling everything together. So we've got those joints in the middle and then on the very ends, and that's where the side of the box are going to start coming together. And the ones that I cut down, you can see here, I put them towards the top of 2 of the long ones, 2 of these long signs, and those are going to go on opposite sides. And then right now I have those last 2 signs. I'm going to be measuring how long I want it to be able to customize the top and the bottom of our apothecary drawer DIY. So I'm just scoring along this line once I had exactly where I wanted to cut. And then these snap really easy once you score it a couple of times on each side. And I'm just going back and forth to make sure I have a nice clean break. Then I'm going to start gluing on all of the sides. I make sure that when I put on the glue, it's a nice thick amount. And then I'm lining everything up because you really do get one shot at this. So I'm making sure I'm lining everything up and pressing also in the middle to make sure if there's no bowing in the sign. Then I'm going to bring on the top and the bottom, and you can see where I cut down those wood sticks earlier, so that way I have a joint to be able to bring up the sides of the box. At this point, the box has been completely built. It's really strong using all the reinforcement painter sticks, and now I'm gluing on all of my wood plank squares. I wanted to dress up this box a little bit to give it some decorative mold trimming. And so I'm using some of these long wood dowel sticks from the Dollar Tree as well, cutting them down to size where I need them to be with some wire cutters. And then up at the top, I took a long popsicle stick. It wasn't long enough to reach all the way across, so I ended up having two pieces and I just brought them together. Now, originally I did put some staples on the front of it and realized it was so strong at this point that I actually could take them back off, so I did. Gave it a nice coat of white paint, and now I'm coming in and distressing the box. This part really is up to you and how much you want to distress it, or if you want to do a different color, but I decided to go a little bit heavier around the box squares to make it look like they're old, beat up looking drawers, because I really love how vintagey this is starting to look. And now I'm coming back in with some of these metal tags, and then I'm using a small eyeglass screw to be able to put in these screws. Just because they're so tiny, I thought that this would be the best option, but I made sure I drilled my holes first so that way I didn't struggle with trying to get through that wood. Then I'm adding on some handles and some knobs. I ended up doing little handles and knobs because I didn't want to use all of my knobs. These were actually a little more expensive than what I wanted to commit to put all on one project. So I kind of mixed them up and I went back and forth between these little handles and knobs. I will link everything I used for this hardware down below in my description box. And then at the very end, I just came up at the top and I painted on something cute which says Vintage Market Company. This next project is going to be taking these pallets that they have over at the Dollar Tree. You'll need 4 of them, as well as some tongue depressor sticks, popsicle sticks from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to be taking my wood glue, I'm going to put a dot, and then I'm going to come back in with some hot glue and add that onto it as well, because we are going to be butting these 4 pieces up to each other to create a box. So what we're going to do at this point, once you've got all the sides all glued together, you're going to wrap around some tape because we're going to paint it. Now you could always stain it or just paint it a solid color. I thought it would be really pretty to give it that modern vibe to it, to add a color just halfway on this container that we're building. So I'm going to go with a really pretty mossy, dark, almost a foresty green color. I thought this was so pretty, and it lends well going into that Thanksgiving Christmas season. It kind of has that vibe, and you're going to see the floral picks that we use at the end that are going to have a white pumpkin on it, so it could continue to go over into that Christmas season, which is going to be really pretty and neutral for this time of year. Now again, I'm going to link Jazz's project down below because it was so funny how similar our 2 projects were, or I guess great minds think alike, and it just happens, you know, we're all shopping at the same stores. Anyway, I just want to make sure I give her a shout out. Go over and check her out. You'll love her channel. She's so inspiring, and I just think she's the cutest thing ever. Let her know if you go over and check her out. Let her know that I sent you over. I'm going to link the exact video where she does her project too, because the steps are like almost identical. All right, so once you've got to that painted, you notice that I didn't put the bottom on yet because I didn't want to struggle with the paintbrush getting down inside of there. So I painted it first, and then I added my base by using those sticks that I cut down to size. And then now inside, I took some foam core and I painted it the exact same color on its side, just to camouflage that foam being down in there. You don't want to see that coming through your pretty project that you just painted. So I added that color, glued it down with some hot glue and a little bit of E6000, and now I'm coming back in with my florals. I just think that this would be so pretty on a table if you're hosting Thanksgiving. And I'm going to add in these two different florals from the Dollar Tree. One has more of a wispy look to it. I thought it was so beautiful. And then the other one has this pine cone and berries and white pumpkins. Now at this point, you don't have to do this. I wanted to make it look more farmhouse, which has always that distressed look to it. You could skip this step, but I'm coming back in with some white paint and just very, very lightly adding on some of that depth and texture, that distressed look to it. And then I thought it would be so pretty to take the nautical rope that they have at the Dollar Tree that I finally found. Was hunting for this one for months. I finally found some. And I'm going to just wrap it around, and I'm going to purposely place the rope so that it doesn't shift and pull off over time. And once I've got that all in place, I'm going to take some glue and I'm going to come right into the middle part of the twist. Twist it tight so it doesn't come undone, and then I'm going to hold it and fray the ends. This is going to keep it from unraveling and going everywhere and creating a giant mess. Couldn't this be so pretty? You can paint the box however you want. For this DIY, we're going to need 3 mirrors, 3 of these long signs. These ones are from Christmas, but they have them all year round, and then some long painter sticks. Start by popping off the front of that extended out sign, the ribbon, and then the staples. Once you've got those all off, I flipped them over to the back side, and I'm going to bring these all together with some painter sticks, and I'm going to glue those into place to make them nice and straight as I possibly can. Now I'm going to create a box around this particular sign that I have now put together, but it's not going to be a sign, friends. It's actually going to be a wall jewelry caddy. I thought that this would be so cool because these are so expensive, where they can cost up to $100. And I wanted you to see that with just a couple of bucks and being creative, you can customize your very own jewelry caddy. So once I've got all my wood cut down to size and I glued them down, I went ahead and stapled the corners together first. Then I flipped it over and added a lot of staples in the back this way, so if it falls, it's going to make it not break. Then I'm placing in my long painter sticks, making sure they're the right size for the mirror to be able to go down the middle. And then once I've got those in place where I wanted them to, I went ahead and glued them down and then stapled them in place. Now I'm going to start customizing out the different boxes on this unit. I wanted to make sure that this line that's going across here from the original signs, I wanted to conceal that some, so I'm going to go ahead and cut those down to size for smaller boxes, and I'll show you a little bit later what we're going to do with that. And then I'm going to create one more, and you can see that I made my marking with a pencil where the mirrors were. And I'm going ahead and gluing this next piece down, and then I'm going to staple everything into place, making sure it's nice and secure. Then I took it outside, gave it a nice coat of black spray paint, and now I'm adding in the E6000 and hot glue to make sure that the mirrors do not come off. Then I'm going to take some contact paper from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to cut it down to size and then rub that into place. Now at this point, I wanted to drill a couple holes. I found the right size I needed to be able to fit onto the dowel, and then I can slip my dowel through those spots that I just drilled, and then I'm going to cut off the extra of these wooden dowels that I don't need, and then I just glue that into place and then go over it with some black paint to make sure it covers it up. Then up at the top, I went with my smaller drill bit and I drilled a whole bunch of small holes so that way I can hang up all of my necklaces. So I'm just now screwing in some of these golden hooks that you can pick up from any hardware store. Once I was all done with everything, it was ready to be able to add this last little bit of cork in to put in earring studs, and it's ready to be used. Our supplies for this DIY are going to be 3 of these 8x10 canvases, some rope, and then a hard sign that you can pick up from the Dollar Tree. In fact, all of these are coming from the Dollar Tree, as well as some thicker tongue depressor popsicle sticks. We're going to be using all of these supplies to create a beautiful, bright, and coastal looking crate. Now you can paint these whatever color you want, but I just thought this coral color, when you see the finished look, is going to be so pretty for the summertime to use, and you could even take it over into the fall time as well, and technically in the springtime too. So you can see there that I removed the canvas fabric. I always like to keep the canvas fabric, but I pull off the sides just because those are bent and stapled. So I always just put that to the side to keep it, and then the scraps I throw them away. And now I'm going to take that frame, the wood frame, and I'm going to make my mark line, and I'm going to use my craft knife to score this board, and it'll snap really easy. I scored it 3 times, and then once you've got it snapped, you're going to want to cut off any extra hangover that you can see here that I'm needing to cut off. And sometimes you have to turn the board over a little bit to make sure you get it all. I just keep rotating it until I get every part where it's nice and smooth. Now we're going to take our hot glue, and we are going to glue that board down onto the frame, or the frame onto the board. And now we're going to take those tongue depressor sticks. So here I am, I'm going to match 2 up together to start, and I'm just going to cut off the tops of the rounded part of them. We don't want those parts. We want them to be nice and flat. And then once I've got that, those are going to be our supports to build up our crate. But we're going to just go ahead and just take more sticks, and we're going to keep cutting them all down, because we are going to need 16 of these. The 16 are going to allow us to be able to double them up so that the support is really strong. You could get away with doing 8, but I highly recommend, if you're building a crate, you want it to last long term. So go ahead and cut 16 of these, because then what we're going to do next is we are going to be gluing 2 together so that they're really strong and sturdy. This is going to allow the crate, like I said, over time to not have any issues with anything being in it and not being able to support it. We want it to be able to be strong enough. Now we're going to take those sticks that we have created, where we're doubling them up, and we're going to glue them into the corner, and then we're going to use our staple gun. I use this thing all the time. I'll link it down below in my description box if you want to see the one that I'm using. And then, so you can see here, I'm putting them in the corners. I'm going on one side and the other side so that every corner is covered with these sticks that we have doubled up. And I'm just using 2 staples on each and every single one. And now at this point, once you've got your frame, you're going to see that these are nice and snug and secure and really strong. I'm going to start sliding on my extra 2 frames. I'm going to take one to the middle point and one up at the top. Make sure you add your hot glue in there to really make sure you're securing it, and then also add in those staples. Now at this point, we're going to create a pretty coral color. I didn't have a coral on me, and it's really easy to make coral. You just take some white, some orange, and a pink, and then add back in some more white if you feel like it's still going to be too dark, and then just simply mix it all together, and it makes the prettiest color. So again, orange, pink, and white, and you just mix, mix, mix until you get it to the look and desire that you want. Now I wanted it to be a really bright coral color. I thought this was going to be so pretty somewhere in my home. So in fact, while I was mixing this color, my daughter Miriam kept saying, "So are you making that for me?" Are you making that for my room? Can I put my toys in it? So I have a feeling she might hijack this if I try to decorate with it. It might end up in her room because she loved the color so much. But I'm just going to give it 2 nice coats of this color, making sure it's nice and polished and finished. And then on the bottom, I painted it white because I wanted to have a nice finished look at the bottom. So here I am, I'm just taking some of this ticking stripe that's blue and tan, and I'm just going to add that around to make sure that any staples where I stapled the frame to the base, that doesn't scratch a table. It'll have a nice finished look at that point. Now I'm going to take some of the rope from the Dollar Tree. I'm just wrapping it around, and then to create a really nice nautical finished handle, I'm taking another piece of twine and I'm wrapping it around. You can see here that I start with a little bit of hot glue and then I just wrap, wrap, wrap. Like I'm rapping, that was funny. And then I'm just going to glue it off and finish that look, and you're ready to display it somewhere in your home. For this DIY, I'm going to be using 3 of these signs and then 4 of these canvases. Now, first I took off the fabric, the canvas that was on it, and then I'm showing you that you could remove the staples, but it was so much work to remove them that I decided to just leave them on. I sanded off all of the glitter from the signs so that it was a nice smooth surface, and then I'm going to start building this 3-tiered shelf. So I started by adding on that first one, and then I'm going to add on my next one, and you can see that the canvases, the frames, they're not the same exact size, so you can see that I've got a little bit of spacing on there, which is fine. It's going to look so cute in the end. And then I stapled everything into place. So first I glued it, then I stapled it, and then now on the next tier, to make sure it's nice and balanced, I'm going to bring back that frame, the wooden frame. I'm going to pull it back towards the edge, and you can see here that one is a little bit forward down at the bottom, the other one is pulled back more towards the edge of the top, and I'm going to show it right here so you can see that they're not perfectly the same because I wanted it to look like that on purpose. And then now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to staple everything together. Now this is where it's going to turn into such a cute farmhouse project. I'm going to take these long dowel sticks and I'm going to simply just add some glue, and then I'm going to crisscross that right inside there. I did one on the inside and then one on the outside because otherwise the sticks will lay funny and you'll have to cut them. Once I was all done, you can paint it whatever color you want. It's actually really sturdy and can handle a lot of weight on it because you've stapled it and glued it all together. For this DIY, we are going to be taking this long wood sign that you can get from the Dollar Tree. They have these around the summertime, and I've been seeing some of them in different styles, so they are still having these in stores. I found these recently in my Dollar Tree, and we're going to take my miter box and we're going to use a 45-degree angle, and we're going to cut 2 pieces. This is going to be the piece left over we don't need. 2 pieces that we like the height of them, one a little taller, one a little shorter. And then we're going to flip it the other way and we're going to do a 45-degree cut again to create a rooftop. Now these signs, I've seen so many people do them so many different ways, and I thought it would be really cute to make these into little homes that you can use on a tiered tray or on a shelf. And it's just so fun because it only cost me $1. Now I picked up this paper pad from Joann's. I had a really great coupon for it, and it had so many beautiful prints for the fall time. And I'm going to just take out this taupey brown buffalo check paper and this scroll font paper. So now what I'm doing is I'm showing how I trace out my house. I like to make it one continuous piece versus trying to cut out all these different pieces of paper, and then you have weird seam lines. So what I'm doing is I started flat, traced the roof, rotated it, trace the other side of the roof, rotated it again, and now I'm going to take my ruler and come back in and make the connecting joints where the side of the house is. Then you're going to take your scissors, simply cut it out and glue it onto your house. See how it has a nice seamless look all the way around it because you've wrapped it versus having a bunch of different pieces of paper, and it avoids you having to paint the house a white color or whatever. It just takes away one step. Now for the roof, we're going to take some of those really thick, long depressor sticks that you can pick up at Walmart. They're really big. And I'm going to just simply cut them down to the size that I need. We need 2 different sizes because on the roof, we want them to be able to miter into each other or meet up. So one has to be just a hair longer than the other one. And then I decided to do one rooftop where it has more of a darker black roof. And then the other one is more of a really pretty walnut or amber looking rooftop. So I'm just putting those on with some glue. And then a really cute detail is taking a nail, and first you're going to hammer it in straight to the side where it's going to let it get in there, and then I rotated a little bit and hammered it the rest of the way. Now on the front of the house, you can stop there or we can continue to keep adding some little details. I added some little greenery, some twine, and then this little cute sunflower that I found at the Dollar Tree in their craft section for fall time. And then on the little house, I just added some more twine and a bow to the front of it. For this next DIY, I actually had some inspiration come from Pottery Barn. Friends, sometimes the prices there, I just can't get over them. I knew we could make this for pennies, so I'm going to take one of these stacking blocks and I'm going to cut it down to where it's a perfect square, where I think it's like 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. And then we're going to glue on with some E6000 and some hot glue for that short-term, long-term hold. And we're going to glue 2 of them to the side of this little square. We're trying to make sure that it's long enough of a bar to be able to put the glass hurricane jar that you can get from the Dollar Tree in their frame and candle section. And then we're going to rotate it to the other side and add 2 more, so now you'll have a big X. And then at this point you're going to put your hurricane glass jar onto the X, and we're going to add on the sides to hold it in place. Again, I've seen a couple friends do this, but I wanted you all to see, don't ever pay those high prices that stores have. I do love Pottery Barn, I won't lie. I think some of their stuff is pretty. I think I've bought something from them a couple of times, but it's always on sale, and I just can't believe that this particular item that they wanted, you know, $30 or more, and here I am, I'm making it for like $1.10. So at this point I decided to paint it black. You could always leave it the wood, but I wanted to make sure that it had a nice clean finish. And then when you're done, add a candle and put it out for display. We're going to take this garden divider, I don't know what this thing is called, but this thing from the garden, and these long painter sticks, and we are going to turn them into a really cute artwork that you can hang up on your wall. So what we're going to do first is we are going to take these long painter sticks and we are going to cut them down to size. And we are going to be using my saw and my miter box. I will link it down below. A lot of you have been asking about it. I love this tool. Now typically I show you in the video how I first cut it, and then I move over to my carpet because then it doesn't slide so much. I've had some people asking me, that's what I really do when I'm cutting it, but I'm just showing you this is basically how I cut my pieces, and then I move over to the carpet. So once I've got all of mine cut on both ends, I'm going to go ahead and take those mitered edges and put them together with some wood glue and some hot glue, so I've got that long-term, short-term seal where they're going to really hold together as a nice frame. I really like making high-end Dollar Tree DIYs here on my channel, and I like to try to challenge you all to push yourself to new creativities and just have fun making things that are outside of your comfort level, and learn and grow with each new project you make. So once you've got that glue all in place, you're going to add a little bit more, and then you're going to take these little pieces of the triangles. These will come off as you're cutting your wood pieces, and you're just going to put those on to help support those corners because you don't want them to break. We want to make this nice and sturdy, like I said, so it's high end. And then you're going to just staple it into place on all 4 of those corners, and you have created yourself your very own frame. Now we're going to move ahead and start cutting this thing apart. Again, I don't know what this thing is called, but it's basically for flower beds, and you can put them all around the edges and it makes them look really cute. But we're going to take it and we're going to cut it up. So you can see here that I cut off this rounded part, and I'm snipping away any little extra edges that I don't want, so it's as smooth as I possibly can get it. And we're going to do that 4 times, and those are going to go in each corner of this frame. So make sure you just take your time cutting them. They actually cut pretty easy, but you can accidentally cut too far if you go too fast. So just go really slow. As you can see here, I'm just taking my time. I did speed it up for interest of time in this video not being too long, but just again, take your time and just, you know, cut around those edges and make sure you're being thoughtful on that curve, because that's probably the trickiest part you're going to cut. So you're going to actually need 2 of these items from the Dollar Tree, these garden flower bed dividers, and we are going to be cutting them all up. So now that we've got those 4 rounded pieces, now we're going to go towards the bottom of these garden dividers, and we are going to cut off, and you can see here you want it to almost look like a T. This is the bottom part of this item that we're cutting up, and that's because we're going to use that to shove underneath the frame. That's going to become the thing that is going to really support this whole thing and keep all of these pieces together without it falling apart and, you know, over time breaking. So you can see here that on the back side I flipped it over, I put down some hot glue first, and now I'm going to staple it onto the frame so it's really strong and sturdy. That way, so there's some of this cool lattice work onto the frame, and then other pieces are glued, and it's all nice and secure. So once I've got those all 4 secure onto the frame, I'm going to go ahead and start hot gluing on these rounder pieces, these curved with the little curly piece and this little arrow. We're going to put those right in the corner and support them with some glue. And then on the back side, the front side, you saw me put down the hot glue, and then on the back side I'm going to add in some E6000 just to really make sure it's hot glued and long-term glued together. Now we're going to take the second one that we have of these garden flower bed dividers. Please tell me what the thing is called, because I'm going to be using these in another DIY, and it would be so great if someone could tell me what this is called. I just can't remember. And then we're going to take this next piece. You saw how I cut out that little part that's an arrow, and also these rounded pieces, because we're going to take them and create a circle. So you can see here we need these 2 pieces that we just cut out. And the circle's really easy to put together. You're just going to take 3 of these curved edges, and you're going to bring them all together with some hot glue, and then just push them all into place, and they will make a perfect circle. Now these other pieces, like I just showed you, that I cut out, so you can see here that I'm going to be pointing the arrow in now, and this is the same thing that we cut on that first cut that was rounded that we're putting in the corners. We're just taking off that rounded top, and then we're going to just nestle that in. See how I flipped it over, and I'm putting them underneath that piece that's in the corner. You want to make sure everything is nice and glued down really well. And then these extra pieces from that T that we cut earlier with the little curl on it, we don't want those long pieces. I've decided to just go ahead and cut those away. You can see here that that slipped and moved a little bit. I need to hold it down a little bit longer with some hot glue. And while that's drying, I went ahead and just cut off the last of those long pieces. We don't want those to be there. And then once we've got everything cut and everything's all hot glued and held into place and nice and sturdy, go ahead and flip it over. And now we're going to take the circle, and we are going to put hot glue on that and add that into the center of this really cool art frame. So the cool thing about this is that it actually is really strong and sturdy, because I've reinforced it with E6000 and hot glue. And I do recommend flipping it over one more time to the back side and adding in more hot glue where you think you need it. It's going to be really sturdy the more hot glue you add to the back. And then when you're done, just pull off all the little strings, because you're going to have hot glue strings everywhere when you're putting this thing together. I did. So just take the time to take those all off. Now you're going to go ahead and take some white paint and paint the frame. I will say, I wish that I had done this before I started putting on all this black lattice ironwork, but you know, sometimes when I'm filming, I don't think about things as I'm going, and I'm just making sure you all can see what I'm doing. So here is the finished look. You made it to the end. I hope you felt inspired from this video today. Make sure you leave a comment down below to let me know which one that you think you will try and which one you liked. And if you are interested in some more craft videos, I will make sure that I link some here at the end so you can check them out. Thanks so much for stopping by, and until the next episode, bye friends.